great industry. We design and we build fantastic buildings. You know, it's, as I said, it's a fantastic industry. Now, if you look at the pride of the team, say in South Australia with the hospital that they're delivering, you look at Mona, you look at 1 Bligh Street, we do some really fantastic stuff, and it really makes a difference to Australia, to the people who live in this country. And so we are in a fantastic industry. Not many people have the opportunity to contribute so much to the built environment and to make such a difference and to leave something behind. So we are in a fantastic industry, and perhaps there's not many more iconic buildings than the Sydney Opera House. But as many of you know as well, the Sydney Opera House is actually also a fairly iconic building for the issues it had in construction delivery. Quite legendary, in fact. So I don't really like to admit this to our foreign overseas visitors here, but essentially the Opera House was meant to take 3 to 4 years to build, and it took 14 years to build, and had a cost overrun of, I think it was 14 times its original budget. In addition, you know, the architect essentially got fired and actually never got to visit the completed building. So, in a sense, it's this thing of just building a fantastic building and issues or complex delivery or public perception of issues in delivery. The actual real story behind the delivery is somewhat different, and it's probably taken us almost 40 years to actually recognise this. So it's actually really a triumph in construction engineering and project management. You look at the structure and the way that it was built, it was incredible what they were actually able to achieve as a team. It's probably one of the few buildings that I actually think lost something when they did the fit out, because when you look at the structure, it was actually an amazing thing to bring that thing together. And a beautiful work of art. This was actually one of the first projects ever to actually use computers to actually set out the building and to actually monitor the deflection in the building structure as they built it. And you'd be glad, basically this would have been a 1964 version of a Trimble unit. And, but basically this was the thing that they checked the structure and checked the deflection and adjusted the tension in the structure and actually built that structure progressively. So it was an amazing feat. It also had the BOF and Jack Mundy, so quite a character, but also quite a legend, because he probably, and most people wouldn't recognise this, that which probably really started the green movement. So another famous aspect of this project was it was actually the first one to really get a green ban. And if you don't know the story, basically it was around 3 Moreton Bay figs that were going to be pulled down or cut down to build a car park, and the BOF got up there and saved the day. So it's a really iconic project for all sorts of reasons. And this was their project team, and there's some pretty famous names in all of that, and Australian companies and a mixture of Australian companies and overseas countries, and many of those firms are here today. So what it actually represented, ultimately, was that it was really one of the most outstanding examples of integrated project delivery. The way that the architects, the builders, the engineers worked together to deliver a very, very complex project. So where we come in to now, 40 years later, 2013, you know, well, actually Sydney's learnt to celebrate it and love that building. It's actually, we found out, we were just up at the Danish embassy a few weeks ago, and they told us actually that there's quite a big celebration coming up in October to celebrate the building. We also have our Construction and Innovation Awards. So you look through those awards and you can see them on the internet, and we're still doing some fantastic work. But I suppose for me, the real issue is around, what we all know in this room are the issues around construction. And a lot of people will tell you that it's never been so tough in the industry, so problematic, and in many ways so dysfunctional. So we've got a major challenge. And what we really need is great projects and great delivery. And the best way to do that is with BIM and with IPD. Right? So what we need to do as an industry is celebrate delivery excellence. And until we are able to do that, we're not where we need to be. So if we keep doing the same things that we've been doing, and in fact things are getting worse, things will just continue to get worse. So I've really come to the point that for us, it's very, very clear that the only way forward is BIM and IPD, and I want to take you on a bit of a journey around that. 2010, we went to the US, and I think it was Mark Lowe from the BSA group and Albert. Actually, this was a different trip, but we went to visit a contractor. This was a mechanical contractor, a big contractor in San Francisco. Company with about a 60-year heritage. And we were brought to this firm to have a look at what they were doing, because they actually had some really good capability in terms of BIM and green rooms and those sorts of things. But I was shocked, because I walked into that building, and there were about 15 people there. The managing director was doing estimating. Okay? This was their CAD team, all gone. Okay? And I guess the thing that Steve said yesterday was that he was doing this thing. He said that basically, it got so desperate in the US that they actually had to work out what to do, because they couldn't keep doing what they were doing. They actually had to find the single thing that they had to go and do to get their company through. So I saw that, and I was shocked and taken aback. We then went to this project, which was a hospital they're building at Mission Bay in San Francisco. And down here there was the design and the construction team all working together. So the architects and design engineers were somewhere over here with the builder. Over here were a few mech contractors, so a bit crazy how they organised stuff over there, but they had the mech and the ducting guy. And they were all being totally driven by this one thing, which was to get the design ahead of construction. And I didn't realise it at the time just how important this was, but the design was being finished, the guys, and what it was actually being driven by was the day that the concrete went onto this slab. Because in desperate situations, what they recognised was that they had to get those hangers into the top deck. So not only was it about safety, it was about productivity, because the downstream benefits in terms of getting those hangers in was just phenomenal. So I didn't really understand it at the time, but now I understand the most important thing I took from that project was the design build, and it took me a year, 2 years to work out, was that the design build leads the construction delivery. Okay? The other thing that I learned is that you can get some stuff from BIM, but unless you get the real deal, in terms of all the possible benefits that you can get from a technology or a process, you won't get the full value out of it. Okay? And what the problem is at the moment is that the money that you invest in design and BIM is not being leveraged out on site in terms of construction. You get a bit of it, you might get 10%, you might get 20%, you won't get the whole lot. So pretty valuable lessons, and as with many things in BIM, it took me probably 2 to 3 years to 2 years to work this out. The other interesting thing in all of this, right, and again I just went back to have a look at this website in getting ready for this presentation, was here's a client on their website who actually celebrates the way that they're working with their builder and their project delivery team. And they're actually proud of it, and it's on the front of their website, and they're about building this new facility ultimately to care for kids, for people with cancer, and they've got space there to talk about the way that they're working with their project delivery team. So, last year we had Balfour Beatty as well talking. And again, probably one of the best presentations. We've had a lot of fantastic presentations. This was the interesting thing for me with the Balfour Beatty presentation was I went back and had another look at it. And I realised that I'd actually missed about 80% of what he was saying, probably 90%. But what he talked about was the 20% improvement in productivity. And then he actually talked about all these sorts of things. And you can put all those things up and you don't understand. You sort of, yeah, safety, quality, off-site prefab, integrated supply chain, put all those things up. Do you really understand it? So what I'm going to do now is just take you on our journey as AG Coombs. It's a pretty short journey. And just tell you some of the lessons that I've learnt and we've learnt as a firm about why this is so important. What this is really about, in my mind, is high-performance construction, right? Because we've got two types of jobs at the moment. We've got some really bad ones that are business as usual. They're actually distressing what they're doing to our people. They're distressing what they're doing to our profitability, distressing in terms of what we can do as a business. We've also got some really high-performing projects, and they're the ones that we build businesses on. So this is our journey. It's interesting because most people, I get the best scores in terms of audience feedback, in terms of the ones that I tell you what we did wrong and where we went wrong. And I think that's either, oh, well, that's good, or it's actually, yeah, actually other people have problems as well. I'm not quite sure, but it's pretty consistent. So we really started back in 2008 with 3D CAD shop drawing. I think at that time we were a fair way behind the game in terms of where a number of our competitors were. We started off, we made a lot of mistakes. We didn't support our drafting team, we didn't understand it, we didn't understand how to leverage it. And so basically at the same time as the OMCA decided that they needed to do something about BIM, we decided to relaunch our BIM strategy. And the two have been working hand in hand. So our journey is actually a pretty short journey. It's from 2011 really to today. And we started with this very first project, which was the Queensland Oral Health Project. So the thing that happened that was so unique on this project was that we got a model for the very first time. So we'd been talking about BIM Epos, taking a design model and using it as the basis for construction. We took the design model, or we were given the design model, it was by Multitech. And Multitech were interesting because they said, this is our very first model. We've done the best, we know it's not perfect, but we were just absolutely thrilled to get the model. Thrilled to get the model when we got the model and thrilled with what we got. So it had some really good Revit modelling principles in it. So it was modelled as systems, all sorts of things. It had 27,000 clashes in it. We didn't care. We just got the model, we got the structural model and we got the architectural model. Right? The other thing is that we got the model in time enough to do something with it. So on this very first project, we took the role as lead BIM coordinator. We put a team around it, so we got a very good BIM guy, one of our first BIM guys. We got a good project manager who wanted to try stuff. We got a strong delivery team put around it. We ran the clash detection, worked out how to do that. We worked out how to do a BIM construction delivery plan. We did our very first design to fabrication runs. Not perfect, but we got it up and running. We got our first Trimble into the top deck. So what we'd seen in the US, we did for the very first time Trimble into the top deck. I think in Australia, as I think David said. So there'd been a couple of others using Trimble before us, and it was all being done from the underside. But we actually got it into the top deck, and that transformed the way we did construction. And there you can see the blue bangers. Now, one of the things that also, in terms of, say, talking about design to working with your supply chain. So the first blue bangers we could get were all Imperial. Hilti said, oh, sorry, I didn't say that, but different companies said, Australia's too small as a market, you know, we can't get the US interested, you know. Now, we've got metric hangers, right? So that's about working with the supply chain to actually get things sort of working as an industry supply chain. We then went to Peter Doherty, and there was actually a job before this, 735, and these are the prefab risers that we put into this project. So with that, we put in 18 modules in 3 days. Okay, so we really developed our capability in that. And then the next project that we, and each time we're building on what we're doing. So the next project that we did, we looked at scheduling. So the thing around scheduling is, I love Primavera, I need to say that, but you know, it can be very difficult to communicate to a project team around a program, 28-page program. It's actually much, much more powerful to convert that program into a model and then schedule it out using the model. So this was the model for 171 Collins Street plant room. Very, very tight, very difficult access. And with the ability of the BIM, we were able to actually work out how to deliver the thing, sequence it. Not only that, we were able to schedule the supplies because it was so tight, moving stuff, bits of duct and all the rest of it around the plant room made a huge difference in terms of actually how we delivered that plant room. So go from that, we consolidate that. We then get into Craigieburn and we get into lean delivery. So with the lean delivery, what we do is we try and consolidate all the things that we learnt and actually try and work out how we're going and what it really means in a project delivery sense. We got our first very big cool duct installation, and one of the first projects really for us to roll out the piping racks. So as you can see, we're progressively building a capability. And at the start of each job, we decide what we're going to do in terms of actually the next phase of our strategy. So Telstra, which is a data centre, we decided that that was going to be our bring it all together, and we were going to really try and implement it. It was a great job to do it on. And the reason it was a great job to do it on was for two things. One is it's principally services, so the structure is pretty straightforward. We've got Lend-Lease building the structure and not managing the project and managing the client and doing all that sort of stuff, but principally it's about probably 80-90% services. We decided that we'd pilot the field BIM and we'd bring all these things that we've learnt so far together onto one project. The thing about it is that what we were really aiming to do was to consolidate all of those lessons, and you know, in terms of that, the key enablers for us were we wanted to get BIM-enabled construction. Okay, so our guys are now using the model on the field, day in, day out. We also wanted to really consolidate this. So this Revit design, and we got a fantastic model from AECOM, into using that, fine-tuning it, developing it into a constructible Revit model, and then using that as the basis for our commissioning and as-built delivery. So what we really set ourselves as a mantra for the project was to get this to be BIM-enabled construction. The other thing that Alistair McDonald said last year, which I didn't really pick up on but for quite a while, but is actually the reason that we've changed the name of this forum, is because BIM is the actual platform for innovation. Okay, so what we have learnt as an organisation is that we can actually use BIM to innovate. And so what we've got now is we've got people at the top, people at the bottom, people everywhere, people on site. All of them are coming back and doing really great stuff. So what we've been able to do is energise our team, and where we're getting the innovation is coming from everywhere. It's actually quite difficult to manage. So when I look at this, and we took Kyle Holmes out to have a look at this site, I was actually blown away. So, and what I realised was when I looked at the Balfour Beatty slide, I actually realised what this looks like. So what does it mean in terms of safety? So what it means in terms of safety is that there's virtually no material sitting on the floor. So you walk around, this is the cleanest site that you have ever seen. Stuff comes in, it gets lifted and it gets put into place. So things that would take a week, 2 weeks on site, sitting around and bits and pieces everywhere, come in, go up. We've got an optimised solution. So AECOM did a great job in terms of their design. We probably put some construction expertise into that model, developed it up. We've got, we're exploring all sorts of new technologies and processes. There's virtually no waste on site. It's a clean site. You walk around, I think Kyle would agree. You just walk around, it's just amazing how little's there. It's all up. Quality, the quality is brilliant. So this is a virtually a fully prefab solution that's using, we're using Victolic throughout. Work really well with Victolic and One Steel. So we're working much more seamlessly with them. It's a fantastic solution in terms of the quality that we've got on site. Safety and design, it's fully coordinated. So one of the things that one of our BIM modelers, Brett, said is the amazing thing is when drawings you're always looking down. With BIM you can look up in the virtual world and you can actually see the access issues. We walked around, there were not, we'd separated the cable trays so we could get to our access panels. We've done a lot of really good stuff in terms of safety and design. We have integrated our supply chain. We're making really extensive use of our off-site and prefab facilities, and that's working seamlessly. And we've got an engaged client. When I say engaged, I just want to talk about engaged clients. So here's the difference. You want to use Trimble, okay? So you can have you start the job, you go, oh, we want to do Trimble. The one approach is everyone you sort out all your reference nodes. It's not my problem. On this project, the builder's providing the reference nodes. The surveyor does them onto some external sites, onto external buildings. So everyone using Trimble is using the same set out points. They're using the same model points. Once the walls get put up, the surveyor comes in and he puts the next point. So everyone is using the same set out points, right? That's again a difference between getting some benefit and getting the maximum benefit. So we've got I think we've got a happy client on that, and I think we've got a happy consultant, because the amount of time that they're spending in RFIs, issues in terms of defecting sites, I think as I used to be a consultant, I know, used to make money in design and lose it in construction, and I think from what I understand from AECOM, they're pretty happy. So what to expect from all of this is we have to spend more money in design, right? We have to spend less in construction. We've significantly reduced our project delivery risk, right? So we all know that there's totally insufficient risk to cover the complexity of the tasks that we undertake. We all know it. And what we dread is the bad job. This effectively eliminates the bad job. Ultimately, we're delivering at a total lower cost and we're getting improved profitability from it. The thing is, and Steve, Trevor and I started it yesterday, a little bit about the soft side of things, but we actually empower our people. So the thing that I really noticed about this site is that the site manager walking around is proud of what he's doing. He's working with other people in the team in a collaborative fashion. I've never been to a site that has had such a good feeling about it. It's uncluttered, it's clean, it's just the way we should be delivering projects. And we're just getting continuous innovation. So we've got happy clients, and I think we've got happy designers. Well, as happy as clients can ever get, but you know, we're getting good results. One of the photos or slides that I didn't understand last year, I sort of understood it but didn't really, was this one from Alistair McDonald again. But what you need to actually do is you need to make continuous investment, and you have to make the commitment to actually get there. Right? So we've continued to invest in difficult times, but once you do it and you get out the other side, you actually get to a better place. The other thing is, this is part of it's technology, so the technology's come a long way in the last 2 or 3 years, but it's actually about wanting to decide to change. This is a pretty good slide. I heard it at one of the mine shop things that I went to, and I sort of thought about it, but didn't actually realise what a powerful slide it is. You actually got to be dissatisfied, and I actually don't know that the industry could be more dissatisfied at the moment as to how things work. You have to have a vision, okay? That's the most important thing. You've got to have the support from your management. You know, we've had a great patron in what Russell's been doing. You've got to have a plan. So we've got 3 plans, right? We've got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. None of it's easy. You've got to empower people. You've got to get some quick wins, but ultimately it's about persistence. And then you've got to institutionalise it and make it stick. So again, from Alistair's slides last year, repeating the same thing. If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you're going to get the same results. What I didn't understand was we'd be delighted if you would join us in helping transform our industry. So you can join us in terms of the BIM Oz initiative, or as what we really need. I'll be honest with you, what we really need is builders, right, and clients who actually want to have got some vision about how actually the industry should work. Because there's some out there, and I reckon we saw it in ProBuild yesterday. They've got vision, and I think that they'd be like us. They're looking, whatever part of the supply chain you're in, you're actually looking for people who actually want to work with you. I guess the other thing I'm pretty passionate about is there's lots of people making lots of decisions in very tough circumstances. And I see, I'm not going to go into it because you guys are all pretty capable people, but I think there's 2 types of decision makings that we're seeing at the moment. Some that are making, I think, some decisions that will get them into the wrong position. And then there's others that will seize the opportunity. So if you look at I love my friends over in South Australia. They're right into making some really good decisions. They've been it's interesting, South Australia has been leading in many respects in terms of what they do. And I'm not surprised when you listen to the NRA project and Watson Fitzgerald and all those sorts of guys, that they're actually making a real success of this. Right, so we've got decisions to make. It's actually pretty important what the decisions that the builders are making, and it's pretty important the decisions that the clients are making. So here are the critical points, and these are just the points I want to leave you with. People talk about BIM execution plans, right? The most important thing to understand is design, BIM, and construction management are all one and the same thing. You have to manage design the same way that you'd manage construction, right? It's no use designing as you're building or designing after the structure's up. That's the thing I learnt from that hospital over in Mission Bay, right? If you can't manage design, you're wasting your time. So design leads construction. The other thing I want to say is you need to leverage your core skills. So I've had some pretty intense discussions with internally in different places, but what I recognise is, and there's a lot of confused people out there, but actually, interestingly, I talked to an architect a couple of nights ago at a dinner. He said the first question he asks his graduates is, what's the size of a brick? All right? So they might have the best, be able to do anything on their iPad or whatever, or do this incredible model, but if they don't understand the size of a brick, it's a problem, right? So we have to have we have to have good shop drawers, we have to have good engineers, we have to have good structural engineers, we have to have all these things. BIM introduces some great tools to help people, but we've actually also got to work out how as an industry to keep developing and fostering our skills development. And I can't underestimate the importance of a constructible Revit model, right, and an integrated workflow. So just one final point, which I sort of gave you a snap insight into. Interestingly, and the one final thing is, interestingly about the Sydney Opera House, it actually ultimately got a BIM model. So after 40 years, they actually just modelled this in the last couple of years. And again, it's interesting because the reason they did it was for BIM FM. So with that, I hope I've given you some insight into perhaps the journey that you might need to undertake, and also what I'd like to really promote is construction delivery excellence. So thank you. Thanks, cheers.